Hi friends, my name is Sarath. Welcome to my channel DSK Exam Prep. In this video, I am going to explain some important questions regarding article number 32. The article number 32 is Right to Constitutional Remedies. First question. The right to move to the Supreme Court for enforcement of fundamental rights is guaranteed under which article? The answer is article number 32. Article number 32 is the right to constitutional remedies, which is a fundamental right. The fundamental rights are present in the part number 3 of the Indian Constitution. Next question. Which article of the Indian Constitution is known as the heart and soul of the Indian Constitution? The right answer is article number 32. Article number 32 is the right to constitutional remedies. See, one more point again here is this comes under the fundamental right, and the fundamental rights are in the part 3 of the Indian Constitution. Okay, and the articles of the fundamental rights are from article number 12 to 35. Next question. Article number 32 of the Indian Constitution is known as the heart and soul of the Constitution. Who said it? The answer is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar said the Article 32 is the heart and soul of the Indian Constitution. Next one. In India, the Supreme Court, the High Courts, or any other courts empowered for the purpose can issue how many types of writs? The answer is 5 types of writs. See the question again. In India, the Supreme Court, the High Courts, and any other courts empowered for the purpose to issue the writs. How many types of writs are there? There are 5 types of writs are there. Okay, 5 types of writs can be issued by the Supreme Court, High Courts, or any other court empowered for this purpose, empowered by the Parliament. Okay. The 5 types of writs are habeas corpus, certiorari, prohibition, mandamus, and quo warranto. See, we have already seen there are five types of writs. They are habeas corpus, certiorari, prohibition, mandamus, and quo warranto. Next one. The literal meaning of the term habeas corpus is? The answer is to have the body of. The answer is to have the body of. The meaning of the habeas corpus. The meaning of the habeas corpus is to have the body of. See here, it is an order issued by the court to a person who has detained another person to produce the body of the latter before it. If one person detained the second person, the court will issue this writ to this person to produce the body of the second person in front of the court. See, it can be issued to a person or an organization or any government organization, anything like that. Okay. The writ habeas corpus can be issued against whom? The answer is both public authorities and private individuals. The habeas corpus writ can be issued against public authorities as well as private individuals also. The literal meaning of the term mandamus is? The mandamus term meaning is we command. Who commands? The courts will command. Okay, the courts will command. The literal meaning of the term mandamus is we command. Okay. Next one. The writ issued by the court to a public official asking him to perform his official duties that he has failed or refused to perform is? Okay, the answer is mandamus. Just now we have seen mandamus means we command, the court commands. Here, see the question again. The writ issued by the court to a public official. Why? Asking him to perform his official duties that he has failed or refused to perform. Okay, this public official has failed or refused to perform his official duties. Then the court issues the writ, that is mandamus. Okay. Next one. The writ mandamus can be issued to. The writ mandamus can be issued to a public official, a public body, a corporation, an inferior court, or a tribunal, or the government. Okay. Who will issue these writs? The Supreme Court or High Courts. Okay. Supreme Court or High Court will issue this mandamus writ to a public official, a public body, a corporation, an inferior court, a tribunal, or the government. Next one, the literal meaning of the term prohibition is. Prohibition means prohibition is the another type of writ. The meaning of the prohibition is to forbid or to not allow. That means the court is asking to stop. Okay, the court is asking to stop. Okay, the literal meaning of the term prohibition is nothing but the to forbid, to not allow. Okay, the next one. The writ of prohibition issued by higher court, a higher court to a lower court or a tribunal. Okay, court to court, court to court. Okay, the writ of prohibition is issued by higher court to lower court. That means Supreme Court can issue this writ to any other lower court. High courts can issue to any other lower court but not to the Supreme Court. Okay, next one. The writ of mandamus directs dash and the writ of prohibition directs dash. So the writ of mandamus directs the activity. Mandamus means we command to do something. Okay, we command you to do your job. Okay, that is the writ of mandamus directs the activity. The writ of prohibition directs the inactivity. Inactivity means to stop. Okay, the higher court will issue this prohibition order to a lower court to stop doing something. Okay, that means directs the inactivity of the lower court. Next question. The writ of prohibition can be issued only against judicial and quasi-judicial bodies. Just now we have seen the higher court will issue to lower courts. Okay, so judicial and quasi-judicial bodies only. Okay, the writ of prohibition can be issued only against judicial and quasi-judicial bodies. Next question. The writ of prohibition cannot be issued against. The writ of prohibition cannot be issued against the administrative authorities, the legislative bodies, or private entities. Okay, the writ of prohibition cannot be issued against administrative authorities, legislative bodies, or private entities. Next question. The literal meaning of the term certiorari is. The meaning of the certiorari is to be certified or to be informed. Okay, the literal meaning of the term certiorari is to be certified or to be informed. Next question. The writ of certiorari is issued by. The writ of certiorari is issued by a higher court to a lower court or a tribunal. Just like prohibition, this writ also, certiorari writ also issued by a higher court to a lower court or a tribunal. Why this writ is issued by a higher court to a lower court? See, either to transfer a case pending with the lower court or tribunal. See, this is the first case. If the lower court or a tribunal is having a case pending with them, or they have already passed the judgment. This is the second case. Second case, the lower court has already passed the judgment. The first case is the case is still pending with the lower court. Then in such cases the higher court will issue this certiorari order. Okay. Next question. Which of the following writs is only preventive and the other is both preventive as well as curative in nature? The answer is prohibition and certiorari. See the difference here clearly. Prohibition is issued by a higher court to a lower court. The prohibition is issued by a higher court to a lower court or a tribunal. Why? To prevent the latter. Latter means the lower court or a tribunal. To prevent from exceeding its jurisdiction or usurping a jurisdiction that it does not possess. Suppose Supreme Court and High Courts we take for an example. If the Supreme Court can issue the prohibition writ to High Court, if the case does not fall under the jurisdiction of the High Court, then in such cases the Supreme Court issues a prohibition writ to the High Court to stop from hearing, next hearing. Okay, in the same case, so the prohibition is nothing but the preventive in nature. Okay, the prohibition is only in preventive in nature. See the certiorari. Certiorari is also issued by a higher court to a lower court or a tribunal. Why? on the grounds of excess jurisdiction or lack of jurisdiction or error of law. That means two cases here earlier we mentioned, first case and second case. First case, the case is still pending with the lower court. In second case, the case is already completed and the judgment is also passed. In the first case, if the case is still pending with the lower court, and if the case does not fall under the jurisdiction of the lower court, in such cases certiorari can be issued. In second case, the judgment is already passed, but this also does not fall under the jurisdiction of the lower court. In such cases also, the higher court can issue the certiorari writ to the lower court. Okay, thus the certiorari is both preventive in nature as well as a curative in nature. Curative means the judgment is already passed, but even then the higher court can take up the case again. Okay, next one. The writ of certiorari can be issued against whom and cannot be issued against whom. Okay, the answer is the writ of certiorari can be issued against judicial bodies, quasi judicial bodies as well as administrative authorities also. Okay, and the writ of certiorari cannot be issued against legislative bodies, private individuals or bodies, etc. Next question. The literal meaning of the term quo warranto is, the answer is by what authority or by what warrant. Okay, the literal meaning of the term quo warranto is by what authority or by what warrant. Next question. Which among the five writs issued by the court to inquire into the legality of a claim of a person to a public office? The answer is quo warranto. Quo warranto means by what warrant, by what authority you are having that position in that public office. Okay, so this writ can be issued by the court to inquire into the legality of the claim of a person to a public office. Thus it prevents illegal usurpation of a public office by a person. Okay, next one. Which among the five writs can be sought by any person, not necessarily by the aggrieved person? Okay, the answer is quo warranto. Answer is quo warranto. Quo warranto can be sought by any person and not necessarily by the aggrieved person. See here, the writ of quo warranto can be issued only in case of a substantial public office of a permanent character, and it is created by a statute or by the constitution itself. Okay, the writ of quo warranto cannot be issued against private or ministerial officers. Next question. Can Supreme Court refuse to exercise its writ jurisdiction? The question is, can the Supreme Court refuse to exercise its writ jurisdiction? The answer is no. The answer is no. The Supreme Court cannot refuse to exercise its writ jurisdiction. Why? Why? Because a remedy under Article 32 is in itself a fundamental right. Okay, Article 32 is itself a fundamental right. So even the Supreme Court cannot refuse to exercise its writ jurisdiction in this case. Okay, next one. Next question. Writ jurisdiction of a high court is exercised under which article? The answer is article number 226. Earlier we have seen the writ jurisdiction is of the Supreme Court is given under article 32. For the high courts it is article 226. Next question. Can a high court refuse to exercise its writ jurisdiction? The question is, can a high court refuse to exercise its writ jurisdiction? The answer is yes. Yes, the high court can refuse to exercise its writ jurisdiction. Why? The power to issue writs by a high court is discretionary and not absolute. Okay, it is the high court's discretion to issue the writ, or it may or may not issue the writ. Okay, next one. The dash can issue writs only for the enforcement of the fundamental rights, while the dash can issue writs not only for the enforcement of the fundamental rights but also for any other purposes. The answer is Supreme Court and High Court. See, the Supreme Court can issue writs only for the enforcement of the fundamental rights, whereas the High Court can issue the writs not only for the enforcement of the fundamental rights but also for the any other purpose. Okay, next one. What do you mean by a writ petition? It is a formal written application or a request. That means a formal written application or request submitted to the Supreme Court or a High Court seeking the issuance of a writ. The writ petition can be filed by individuals, organizations, or entities to invoke the court's jurisdiction. Why? To protect their fundamental rights and to enforce the statutory rights, or for challenging the governmental or administrative action. See again. The writ petition can be filed by individuals, organizations, or entities to invoke the court's jurisdiction. Why? To protect their fundamental rights and to enforce the statutory rights, or challenging the governmental or administrative action. The writ petition means it is a formal written application or a request submitted to the Supreme Court or a High Court seeking the issuance of the writ. The High Courts have a broader jurisdiction compared to the Supreme Court. Justify the statements. We have already seen the Supreme Court can issue writs only for the enforcement of the fundamental rights, whereas the High Court can issue writs for other legal rights in addition to the fundamental rights. Okay, that is why the High Courts have broader jurisdiction compared to the Supreme Courts. Next one. Match the following: habeas corpus, prohibition, certiorari, quo warranto, mandamus. The answer is correctional direction to lower court, unlawful occupation to public office, preventing lower courts from hearing, non-performance of public duty, unlawful detention. See, unlawful detention, nothing but habeas corpus writ. Okay. Non-performance of public duty, the writ of mandamus. Okay. Next one, preventing lower courts from hearing. This comes under prohibition. Next, unlawful occupation of a public office, quo warranto. Okay. Next, correctional direction to a lower court. It is nothing but certiorari. Okay. 1E, prohibition means C. Prohibition means preventing lower court from hearing. 2C. 3. Certiorari. Certiorari is a correctional direction to a lower court. Next one, 4th, quo warranto. Quo warranto means unlawful occupation of a public office. Next, mandamus. Mandamus means we command. We command means we command to perform your duty, non-performance of duty. Okay. So friends, with this I conclude this session. If you like the video, please click on the like button and share it to your friends and family and subscribe. Thank you. Thank you very much.